Imagine booking a flight to Tulum and accidentally investing in a fighter jet. Wild, but welcome to the economy. Travel content all over your feed. Global defense budgets, breaking records. And ETFs, the cheat code to invest without pretending you read The Economist. We're breaking down what's really moving the market. No fluff, no finance bro jargon. Let's get into it. Oh, and Joe's is in the building. Welcome to the podcast, Joe's.
Thank you, Isabella. I love the way you said Jose is in the building, like the world is supposed to recognize this person, like a Bono. But I think people might be confused. Is it one Joe, multiple Joes? Because I don't think they know my spelling, right? But thanks for the intro. Pretty cool.
Welcome. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what are your travel plans this summer?
I'm very fortunate where I get to travel a lot of Canada for work. I get to meet clients. And so usually during the summer, I actually really love traveling within the country. And this year, I'm actually going to Kananaskis in a month. So I'm actually pretty excited. I've seen some photos. It makes no sense how beautiful it is. And I actually didn't even know Kananaskis existed as a place until earlier this year. So excited for that, actually. Yeah.
Watch out for the bears out there.
People tell me that I am in awe of bears and I really respect Mother Nature. So I don't want to be like too close, but just close enough. Yeah. What about you? What's your plan?
I recently went to Calgary, so also staying domestic, and it was great. It's beautiful out there.
I know the mountains. Something about it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into it. Joe's, tell me a bit, since we're on the travel topic, how exactly are millennials traveling and what are the trends that we're seeing?
Very relevant as I would consider myself somewhere in that generation. I think there's been an evolution as life goes on, right? Like people change. And the big, let's say, shift of the current generation versus the previous generation, I would say, is they're valuing experiences more. And they tend to value that, especially in their 20s and 30s. So they're making big life decisions later in life. I think we can all relate to that to some degree. So my parents' generation, my mom, for example, or my dad, they were really into goods like washing machines, refrigerators. They were excited about buying stuff versus I think about me, my friends, and our generation as a whole. We actually want that crazy experience. Oh, you did this thing in Tulum, or you went to this unspoken place that no one's gone to before. So that said, we still want to build families, homes, XYZ. We're just not doing it in our 20s. We're probably doing it in our 30s. So slight shift, but huge implications.
Absolutely. So 20s are more about the experiences, that travel, and then 30s, when we're going to buy a house and settle down.
Increasingly later and later. Yeah.
That's kind of the trend we're seeing. Okay. You know what else I read actually was that domestic travel booking surged by 40% for this summer, which is crazy. I mean, makes sense. A lot of people are staying more in Canada. So how do you actually invest in this trend?
So it's fascinating that some politics had to happen for Canadians to look inward, but it's fantastic. It's actually longer term. There's a lot to see, but for an industry to really grow, the demand has to also drive it, right? So if you see more people going, Banff, Calgary, all of these places, just imagine if there was more amenities, more hotels, more ability to see all of that nature. That'd be fantastic. So if that leads to the development of the tourist industry in Canada in a bit more aggressive fashion, I think we all get to see the country. And to invest, well, travel as a whole is a very fascinating theme. And if you ask me, it is probably the oldest theme in human history. Because, if we go back far enough, we all started somewhere in the savannas of Africa, right? And then humans, we one by one, we wanted to always explore. So we've loved this theme as a whole. And there are myriad ways to think about it. So you can invest in hotels, airlines, aircraft makers. You can invest in the parts suppliers that supply parts to these aircraft, cruise lines. So there's tons of ways to play the themes. You just need to know which is the best way ultimately, right, to generate performance.
And is the best way, does it depend on the individual investor?
Yes, to some degree, but also the industries matter, right? Some industries generate more profitable, are more profitable than the others. Like Warren Buffett famously said, like airlines just are difficult to operate. If you think about it, why? Like, they don't control price, right? If one company is reducing tickets, the other company is reducing tickets. They don't control cost because they don't have no control of the fuel price. So effectively, they don't control profits. Versus some other industries, really good. Suppliers, fantastic. Online travel agencies, great. Like a hotel, like a Hilton, fantastic. Like you see Hiltons all over the world or any of those brands all over the world. They actually don't necessarily own the hotel. That's owned by somebody else who's invested in it. You're buying into the brand. So these are great business models. So there's ways to think about it. You just need to understand the business.
Gotcha. And so you talked about like the different industries as well. And I know last week we had a conversation about how the aerospace industry and defense are categorized as one.
Yes.
Can you expand a bit more on that?
That's a great question. When you think about travel and holidays, you never think of aerospace and defense, right? But aerospace and defense is very linked to travel in some sense. Where I said something about part suppliers and aircraft makers in that sense, right? Part suppliers and aircraft makers, engine makers. What parts go into commercial travel, which is your Boeings that you and I fly on a daily basis, and a lot of the parts that go into the defense industry are really the same if you think about it, right? Both sides need jet engines, high performing engines. Both sides need avionics, all of the electronics and the wiring and the technology that goes into planes, right? I think there's a stat like a Boeing 777 or something has over 100 miles of electrical wiring in the plane. Yes. So there's a lot of systems, the radars, the security systems, the communication systems that apply on this side that also apply on this side. So it's a very fascinating but understated way of gaining exposure to travel as a theme.
So the two industries are kind of like sisters or cousins,
Cousins,
brothers.
depending on your relationship with your sisters, cousins, whatever you want to call it, you can classify it. But they're effective. I would say they're like conjoined twins. Let's get more creative. Yeah, they're tied at the hip. They make the same technologies. Like if you think about an aircraft fuselage and the composites that go into it, which is all these custom alloys, effectively to make the flight lighter and more efficient in the air. That same technology applies to fighter jets. So they're very much hand in hand. They go hand in hand. Yeah.
Okay. So on the topic of this, because this is also a trend with Canada announcing that they're spending like over 9 billion on their defense budget for 2025 and 2026. It's another huge trend. Um, can this be leveraged by investing within these industries then right now?
A lot of these aerospace industries, aerospace and defense stocks have been doing really well for quite some time. And yes, indeed, this trend can be leveraged, right? Because this is now like a global theme. What is happening in Canada is happening kind of worldwide. And the way to think about defense is just like you have your home, you probably have Ring, or some sort of camera system that is tracking your home. You have ADT or some sort of home security system in there. Um, Similarly, for countries, they need to invest in that infrastructure to maintain security and to be aware of your country and its borders and along those lines. So a lot of nations had not necessarily invested in that muscle for some time. So think about, I've been out of shape before. And then at some point, I look at the mirror and I'm like, I actually need to invest a little bit in some physical activity. And then I go on that activity trend for a while till I get back, kind of in shape reasonably. And it's the same concept here too. Like defense as a theme was not as invested as, let's say, some other parts of the economy in many countries. And now there's a bit of a spotlight on that because you do need that muscle. And so that's really happening. And investing in industrials like something like a defense technology or even like ordering a commercial airline, right? Let's say you and I, we start an airline. We'll call it Fun Air. And Fun Air, tomorrow we want airlines. I cannot just go to Boeing and tell them like, hey, I need to buy 10 aircraft or Airbus 10 aircraft off the shelf. If I put in an order now, chances are I'm not getting it like earlier than 5, 7, 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, versus like if I need an iPhone, I can just go to the Apple store and get it today.
Exactly. So investing in defense, if you start on that trend, it's something that can stay for some time. It's not a very immediate thing because, hey, you want to build all those factories, you want to build all those machinery, you want to then create the product. That cannot be done overnight. That's like a little bit of, so this, you can think of it as long-term fitness planning for for the industry. So it's not one of those fads where after New Year, everybody is like, I need to hit the gym, and then 2 weeks later, it's over. This is something more sustainable than that.
Long term sounds great. Obviously, it's what some people, that's what might fit within their portfolio. But then what could be some risks that come along with this?
Well, there's with every investment, that's the key question. You have to know the risks as well, because the key aspect is risk reward framework, right? What is a reward you kind of see, but also you should be conscious what could happen, right? So if you think about travel, a very simple risk, right? If you're thinking about travel stocks, is we just came through that as 5 years back when the pandemic happened and the world shut down, right? Something that stops travel is obviously some sort of risk. We talked about defense budgets, but budgets are going up now. But it's very possible a couple of years later, a country's priorities change. At the end of the day, we're democracies and we have priorities as citizens, right? So if our priorities change, and depending on that, our capital allocation, how we allocate our budget dollars change, that could be something. Then, of course, with every company you invest in, there's the execution risk, right? You can have a great plan, you can have a great product, but if you don't price it well, or you're unprofitable, or your operations are not good, then the investment that you invested in, even if the team is doing well, might not do as well. So there's a few of these risks that you should always consider with every sort of investment. And I don't know, I saw a movie a long time back, and I remember this line: "Is the juice worth the squeeze?" And that applies just as a logic to stocks or to any sort of investments. And that is also a personal thing, because everyone's ability to take risk is different. Everyone's willingness to take risk is different. So you need to make that risk reward framework based on your own kind of knowing yourself as an investor.
For sure. And it's important to also diversify in that case as well and not put all your eggs in one basket.
So that's the thing, right? That's really where the magic is when it comes to portfolio management, because it's very easy and tempting for us to get excited in a theme, right? You have take travel, for example. What if I get so excited, okay, travel is the thing, and 90% of my portfolio is now travel. And then COVID happens. Let's say this is March of 2020, COVID happens. Next thing you know, my portfolio is the opposite of amazing. It's probably giving me a heart attack. So you need to know not to put, as you said very well, all your eggs in one basket, because that diversification, when you know at a portfolio level what are all the themes that are driving my basket of stocks, think of it an ETF. When they're diversified, that means there's always offsets. When one is zigging, the other can be zagging. They all won't like fall together at the same time, and that gives you a much smoother client experience and an investing experience as a whole. Yeah.
You mentioned ETFs. So TD actually has an ETF called the Global Enhanced Dividend ETF.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here, Joes. What percentage of that ETF is invested in the aerospace and defense sector?
We would say directly and indirectly to the theme, we're give or take 10%. And I should know because I covered that fund and my PMs are listening.
And so is 10% considered a lot, a little?
So the thing with investing and portfolio management when it comes to diversification is 10% is reasonably okay. It's all relative. You have to think, right? Let's say you're talking about technology. Technology is easily 30% in the S&P 500. And then you have 10% in technology. That means on a relative basis, you're not doing that. If anything, you're actually soft on technology, right? If you have a portfolio that is. So you have to think of that risk concept or what that number is on a relative basis. On a relative basis, the S&P 500 when it comes to aerospace and industrials is maybe 2%. So we're actually 4 to 5x, give or take, what the actual broad market is into this theme. So that is a reflection of our conviction, but we're also not to that degree where all of the portfolio is at, because we have 90% of the portfolio plus offset in other parts or other thematic aspects of the economy that are all offsetting and kind of diversifying each other to give you a smooth client experience. So yes, if you like a theme, we definitely, if you like a theme, a stock, we want conviction in it. We want to be, and I'll ask you a question. If there's a room full of people wearing black suits, how do you stand out?
In a white dress.
In a white dress. So how do you outperform? How do you create portfolios that outperform? By being different. So you have to be different, but you should also manage your risk at the same time. And that's the art and science that comes with portfolio management. That's what makes our industry, or at least what I do, so fascinating and exciting.
Absolutely. So it's a matter of also diversifying within, but being sure of what you're investing in, understanding like the trends, taking advantage of those,
Yes.
but not forgetting what else is going on in the markets as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So next time you're booking a flight or scrolling through your Instagram reels or dreaming of your next getaway, just remember your investment portfolio might already be on the move. Happy travels this summer, and remember, stay curious, stay informed, and stay invested.